Okay, so it's time for us to go ahead and get back into our coverage over Mark Waid's Fantastic Four. And now we pick up with the first actual story arc of his run. The first two videos were just kind of like one-shots. It was him saying like, hey, here's an appetizer to kind of get you guys ready for my run. But now it's time for us to officially dive into his first story arc and see our heroes take on a new kind of creature. By the way, I'm still kind of sick, so the next couple of videos you might see on the channel, I might sound a tad bit under the weather. So please forgive me as the next few videos come out and I may sound a tad bit weird. Now, the opening pages of this storyline is pretty funny at first, and here's the reason why, because Reed is trying to work out a brand new math equation, but besides trying to finish the equation inside his actual laboratory, he decided to do it in the middle of Times Square. And so you have Susan going out of her way to use her powers to make him go invisible so that he would not be interrupted. Now, for Susan, and also me as well, she finds it kind of weird that he needs to work out this math equation in the middle of Times Square, but at the same time, he does not want to be interrupted. Now, once he's able to kind of work out the equation, you didn't have him come uninvisible, where you didn't have a crowd of people realize that it's Mr. Fantastic and also Susan Storm, or Susan Richards. And so now you have everybody wanting to get an autograph from them. But while you have our two heroes signing autographs, you did have Reed think back to what happened in our previous video. See, in our previous video, there was some kind of magical attack in the home of the Fantastic Four. And so for our heroes, they're beginning to wonder who had the power to pull off that kind of attack. But here's the thing though, you see, for Reed Richards, he knows it can't be Franklin because his powers are currently dormant right now. They're not working properly. But you didn't have both of them realize that there is a possibility it could be Valeria. And remember, she only recently came to life around this time in Marvel Comics in issue number 49. And so for our heroes, they're kind of like, we never gave her a test to see if she has potential to have any powers at all. And so you have our two heroes run back home. But they also remember that they left the kids with Ben Grimm. And so you have Reed call up Ben like, hey, where are you? And they are currently taking a field trip to the bottom of the ocean. But now we have to jump over to Johnny. Now, when it comes to Johnny Storm, we have to remember that in our last video, when it came to Susan, she kind of felt like her brother was way too immature for his age. And so you had Susan give him a job as the Chief Financial Officer of the company, Fantastic Four Incorporated. Now for Johnny, this man has no experience in that role at all. But the thing is, she wants to see her brother finally grow up and be the man he's supposed to be. Now, with that being said, luckily for Johnny, he does have somebody by his side, and that'll be Jayan Fita. And I really hope I pronounce her first name correctly. Now, when it comes to Jayan, her main goal is to help out Johnny the best she can with all these different kinds of things that go on inside the company. But even though you do have people right now watching over Johnny, you also have people who want to get rid of Johnny. And that'll be Stoger and Crane, because they hate the idea that Johnny was able to get a high level position without any kind of experience, but also they kind of feel like they have been assigned to babysit Johnny. And so their main goal is to hopefully get him out of the company so that their lives can go back to normal. We also learn here that they have been working on some kind of deal, a deal that could be really bad if it does get signed and, of course, goes through the company's money. And so right now, their goal is to use Johnny as a scapegoat for this bad deal that could actually get signed. Now, we jump back over to Reed, and when we do, we see that Reed is currently working on a DNA scanner to be used on his daughter to kind of figure out if there is a possibility that she might have some kind of power. Now, with that being said, you also have Susan talk about his new device that he had created. Now, this device is a PDA, but it's more powerful than your usual PDA. most likely more powerful than anything in the solar system. Now, while you have the two characters talking, you do have Ben Grimm arrive back on the field trip with the kids. Now, as soon as they get back, you have Reed want to see his daughter to see if there is a possibility that she might have some kind of power. Now, for Franklin, he wants the attention of his father and his mother. But unfortunately for our heroes, they kind of blow their son off and ignore his request. And so this begins the whole idea of Franklin kind of being jealous of his baby sister getting all the attention. Now, you also have Johnny arrive. When he does arrive at the lab, you have Johnny be able to help out Reed finish the DNA scanner. But right after doing that, you have Johnny see Reed's brand new device, the PDA. Now, you have Reed tell Johnny, leave the device alone. It's way too powerful for somebody to just play with. So just leave it there and do not touch it at all. Now, this device is going to be very important for the rest of the storyline. Because in the morning, you have Susan go over to the lab of Reed Richards. And the reason why, because she realized Homeboy never came to bed last night. And so when she goes over to his lab, she finds him. He is completely knocked out while holding onto their daughter. Now, for Susan, she doesn't realize that somebody else had walked into the room. And when they did, they had picked up the PDA that Reed talked about earlier that's so powerful. Now, this person, they write down some kind of crazy equation. But after doing that, it seemed like the equation was able to create some kind of techno being because out of nowhere, you had his hand reach out a device trying to come to life. But later on in the day, we do pick up with Ben and Sue kind of going to the movies. And I kind of like it because you do have Ben and walk in and say, hey, you know what? That's my spot right there. No matter what is playing in this theater, that's my spot right there because I'm Ben Grimm. I'm the thing. I need my leg space. But while you have the two characters inside the theater, you did have that same creature from earlier reappear coming out of the screen in the theater. And so for Ben and Sue, their main goal right now is to fight against the creature, but to also protect the innocent people who are also in the room as well for the movie. Either way, you do have Ben and Sue begin to fight against the creature. Now, this is a very powerful creature right off the bat. And the reason why I'm saying that because you now had this creature being able to analyze the different things and people around him. Like, for example, you have the creature being able to analyze the floor underneath Ben Grimm and begin to use its ability to change the composition of the floor. So Ben Grimm, he falls through the floor. And that same type of ability is also being used on the hand of Susan Richards as well. So there goes her hand as well. This creature has the ability to just break things down into a different form of composition. Either way, with her hand being gone, you have Ben Grimm trying his best to get back into the battle. The problem is you have the creature once again use that same ability on Ben as well. So different parts of Ben Grimm begin to fall off of him. Now you have Susan being able to use her power as a way to contain Ben Grimm so that he will not lose any more pieces of himself while trying to, fight against this powerful creature. But the question is right now, what can our heroes do against a being like this? But as we dive into the second chapter of the storyline, we're kind of getting into the whole idea of learning the name of the creature, but also why the creature is there for. Now, the name of this creature is Modulus. Now, when it comes to the creature, it also tells it tells Susan Richards that it's in love with Reed Richards. Now, for Susan, she's kind of wondering why in the world is this creature so madly in love with Reed? But you also have the creature say, like, its main goal is to get rid of everything else that Reed may love. And of course, that means Susan. Now, you do have Ben Grimm be able to get back into the battle. But while doing that, you did have the creature disappear by going through the comm link that each member of the Fantastic Four carries as a way to talk to one another. Now, with the creature gone, the question is now, where is that creature going to reappear next? But let's not forget about Johnny in that crazy plot line that he is involved in. You see, for Johnny's story, we see him meeting up with that person who's part of that bad deal. Now, what this guy wants to do is use the special type of material that Reed uses when it comes to creating the Fantastic Four suits. Let me explain. You see, when it came to Reed and Richard, he realized that our heroes need special suits that can work along with the powers of each member of the Fantastic Four. So, for example, when it comes to Susan, when she turns invisible, so will her suit as well. The same thing goes for Johnny Storm and also Reed Richards. But this guy wants to use the material as a way to create a brand new clothing line with that special type of material. Now, for Johnny, he knows it is a bad idea and he should say no. But you did have this guy and also the two other people who work in the company alongside Johnny try to push him in a corner where to force his hand. Like, come on now, man. You have all this power. And you know what? Maybe your sister is right. Maybe you should not have all this type of power. But on top of that, they're trying to use supermodels to play with Johnny's mind to go ahead and sign the deal. But while you have Johnny trying to sign off on the deal, you did have Modulus appear. Now, when it does appear, it is able to reappear by going through the comm link that Johnny has to talk to the other members of the Fantastic Four. But here's the thing, when he does go active into his flame mode, he does burn up the contract. But either way, he's now trying his best to fight against the creature, which does cause a massive explosion inside the building. But now we have to jump back over to Reed. Now you have Reed being able to begin the process of trying to heal up Susan, like get her hand back, but to also kind of heal up Ben Grimm as well. Now for Reed, he's trying to figure out what exactly went down earlier for the other heroes. Now you have Susan say that while she was fighting against the creature, she realized the creature looked very similar to what she had saw on Reed Richards' brand new device, the PDA. You see, you have Reed tell us that when it comes to his PDA, it has a limitless data storage. And the reason why, because it is able to store data into a electrochemical dimension. But here's the thing though, that entire dimension never had the ability to gain life. And so whoever wrote some kind of equation, it was able to create life inside that dimension that's now coming into the main Marvel universe. Now for Reed and Sue, they believe it had to be Johnny, but you did have Franklin walk into the room to admit that it was actually him, because again, earlier, he hated the idea that his sister, his baby sister, was getting all the attention. So he thought if he was able to write a cool equation on his father's PDA, then maybe to his father, he'll look at his son as a very smart boy and want to spend more time with him. And so for Reed and Sue, they kind of realize that their son is at fault for this creature now being here. But while you have our heroes talking to Franklin, you did have Modulus reappear right after you have Johnny reappear in the Baxter building. And so you do have our heroes try to work together to fight against Modulus, but to also help protect the innocent people who are being, in the way in the middle of this big battle. But while the battle goes on, you did have the creature try to connect, try to bond with Reed. Now you do have Modulus tell Reed that it is the cure to Reed's loneliness. Now you have Reed being very confused of why you have Modulus saying that. Now while you have the creature trying to connect to Reed, you did have Johnny be able to break that connection. Now while you have Susan, Johnny, and Ben fight against the creature, you have Reed sit there and try to analyze the equation that he saw all over the body of Modulus. And he realized that this creature is not no living, equation, because there's no equal sign. This creature is more of a living expression. And so for Reed, he now knows what he has to do. He now has to find the opposing equation that will be able to take down Modulus. And so you have Reed tell Ben, Sue, and Johnny to hold off Modulus, but to also get the kids somewhere safe. And so you have Susan wondering where in the world Reed is going to find this other equation. And it seems like Reed must go into that other dimension to hopefully find the equation, but it's also Reed saying that the other equation is what defines him, defines Reed Richards. And so as we get into the final chapter of today's storyline, it's really more of Reed being in the other dimension trying to find this other equation, while you have Susan try her best to get the kids the heck away from Modulus. Now, you do have Ben Grimm and Human Torch try their best to fight against the creature, but unfortunately, almost every single thing they throw at the creature is not working. It's all hands on deck at the moment to hopefully find a way to defeat this creature. But getting back over to Reed and Sue, when it comes to Reed, while being in the other dimension, his main goal is to create an equation to go up against Modulus. But this equation has to represent him in all types of ways. And so you have Reed asking Sue different questions about his personality. Now, for Susan, her goal is the same thing: get her and the kids far away from Modulus. The problem is Modulus was able to destroy the fantastic cars, so unfortunately for Susan, she could no longer use those as a way to escape. Now for Reed, he also realized that Modulus was able to travel through the comlinks that Reed had created for each member to talk to one another with. And so you have Reed say, Susan, you must go ahead and get rid of the comlinks now. And so just like that, she had get rid of hers. Getting back over to Ben Grimm and Johnny, they're trying their best to fight off against this creature. But this creature, Modulus, is just so powerful. It has the ability to take a building, a regular sized building, and grow it in size. And the entire building, it falls right on top of our two heroes, leaving us wondering if they are okay at all. But getting back over to Susan, her next idea is to teleport the kids over to the moon. And the reason why? To get the kids over to Crystal, who's part of the Inhumans. The problem is that when she tries to activate the crystal, tries to activate the teleporter, it gets blown up just like that. And so unfortunately, she's no longer able to use the teleporter to get the kids away. Now you do have Franklin run away deeper to the lab of Reed Richards. And luckily for Franklin, he does run into Reed Richards. But Reed did not come alone. This is the beginning of Reed's plan and hoping that his plan could defeat the creature. And so what Reed did was he had created this equation construct of himself to give over to the creature. And here's the reason why: because the creature is trying to find its other half, something to love, something to be close to. It wants Reed because how much it loves Reed. But the problem is that even if you do have this creature be able to get rid of all the different things that Reed loves, Reed's love for those things will always be too powerful to the point where he can never be in love with the actual creature. But at the same time, the creature needs something on its level. And so that is why you had Reed go ahead and create this being, this construct of him being like, hey, take this construct. It's me. You'll have something on your level, but also something to love as well. And so just like that, you have the creature leave and the day is saved. And the book does kind of end on that note where you have our heroes be able to go back to their somewhat normal lives. But this is only the beginning of Mark Waid's run on the Fantastic Four. But with that being said, guys, please leave me a like down below and subscribe. But guys, I'll see y'all next time. Later.